Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. Today on the show, I am going to be joined by Rodger Mort. He is the president at Packaging and Crating Technologies, also known as PACT for short. Rodger is going to talk to us about PACT and what it is they do. They have made some pretty big innovations in the packaging and crating world. So we're going to talk a little bit about those and how those innovations kind of come about. We're also going to talk about the sustainability of their company and the sustainability of the packaging that they create. And then we're also going to talk a little bit too, of course, about everything that's going on with the COVID-19 and the pandemic and if there's been any kind of impact on the packaging world due to that. So let's get into it. We'll talk to Rodger. So Rodger, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on the show and talking to me and, sharing your knowledge about PACT and the packaging world with us. So why don't you give us a little background on PACT and kind of what it is PACT does?
So PACT's been around since 2001, and originally we got into making crates out of corrugated, which we have several patents in.
Okay.
And the use of corrugated, most people think it's cheap. Most people think it's not sturdy,
right.
But with our patents, we're able to make the crate that's stronger than wood, but it's a third of the weight of wood. So
Really?
The first few years was trying to change people's minds on, to get that concept into their head.
Yeah.
And it took a little bit, but then we started getting some really big companies who started to use it, and they started to notice right away that their damages went way down because when you use a wooden crate, you get reverberation through the wood, which kind of, if you're at the ballpark and somebody hits the ball with a bat, the ball leaves like 3 times the speed.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. When the forklift drops that crate, that vibration goes right through the wood and goes into the item and tries to find a place to let itself loose. With corrugated, it basically eats the vibration and absorbs it, doesn't transfer it through to the other side. So we took customers from basically having damages on $100,000 items, 8 to 10 a year, to having 0. But what the big thing they noticed was we were about 20% cheaper than a wooden crate. At the same time, when they put it on a plane, they're saving sometimes double the price of the crate just on the air freight.
Yeah, because less weight, right?
Yeah, less weight. And a big factor for some of these companies where they were shipping a lot to China, a lot to Brazil, and the end-of-life cost for a wooden crating is huge. Most people don't know that when it gets to the end user, the only thing that can happen to it is it gets broken down, thrown in a dumpster that's very expensive,
right? And
then taken to like in China, they have these things, they're like 20 football fields, and these dumpsters get dumped and they just plow it up into the pile, and the pile burns 365 days a year.
Oh, wow.
And the company can get charged as much as $10,000 a month for the dumpsters to do this.
Wow.
Well, with our corrugated, it's highly sought after by the Chinese for the length of the fiber of American fibers is 3 times the length of a Chinese fiber in their corrugated. Oh. So our customers now, instead of paying $10,000 a month for these dumpsters to get rid of them, they're getting paid high dollars for the waste because it's already in China and it's corrugated. So we can take a crate and make it completely out of corrugated, get it there, and then they can resell it as waste. Or they can reuse it, like in the moving industry for the military, the lift vans, what we make. Mm-hmm. They are, if you're ever moving out of the United States, they're going to come and take your household goods, wrap them up, and put them in a thing called a lift van. A lift van is 87 long, 47 wide, 87 tall. When they go to put it in the cargo container, they load these lift vans, and then they put 10 in each cargo container. So when it gets to the other end, customs pulls these things out one by one, and your stuff doesn't get mixed with my stuff. So our lift vans, literally, when you're done using them at the other end, if you don't have another use for it, you fold the sidewalls down, put the lid back on, and now you have an 87 by 47 by 10 inch tall footprint that can be reused hundreds of times. Like, we have people that have them since 2009, and they're still using the same ones today. And they tell us they have over 200 to 300 moves on.
Oh, wow. That's really good quality.
Yeah, when you get the wooden crates, you're constantly pulling the nails out and tearing them apart. So after about 5 or 6 uses, you start to get a lot of splinters, and it becomes a safety issue. Mm-hmm. So most people discard them.
Yeah, interesting. So this is all out of corrugate. So, like you said before, there's kind of that, I guess, stigma around corrugate where it's people think that it's easily damaged and things like that. So what's different about the corrugate that you're using that makes it stronger and more rigid? I'm sure that's part of your patent. I don't know if that's a secret.
We use kick plates in the top and the bottom, which create a channel inside the trays. And these kick plates allow the corrugated to all meet at 90-degree angles and never be crushed. Where if you have a box, when you start to fold the top flaps and bottom flaps, you see that crease all the way around. Okay. Well, that's a crush mark called a score, which causes weakness. In our crating, there's no weakness. So if you took one of our crates and you used a 1-inch wide steel band to try to band it up, and we train our customers on this all the time, when you start cranking that thing down and you see the crinkle in the top of the crate, go ahead and pluck that, stop banding, pluck it like a banjo string. Yeah. You'll hear it's dead tight. If the person then decides to start banding again, that 1-inch band will break, and somebody could get cut from that thing breaking it. You can't crush our crates, though. With even out of corrugated, you could put 5,000-6,000 pounds on top of them all day long.
So it's really sturdy stuff. I mean, it's really interesting too how you've taken something that people, like you said, there's a stigma around it's easily damaged, and actually taking away damages from what the standard was until I guess you guys came up with this. So what kind of, I guess, what's the background behind the idea for this type of innovation? How did you guys come up with the idea to take these crates and make them out of corrugate versus what the standard of wood has been?
Well, back around 2000, 2001, everybody started really getting into sustainability and trying to get away from products that, you had one-time uses and end-of-life costs.
Right.
So that's when we developed the corrugated J crate, as we call it, and that became a lift van. The J crate is basically our main crate if you want to go sustainable. So it can be in any size. That's one size, but we use that thing from 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot up to, we've made some that are 37 feet long by 90 inches wide by 8 feet tall. We had to do a sturdier base because we're putting 30,000 pounds inside the thing.
Oh, wow.
But the sidewalls were all corrugated. The top was all corrugated. We can make them into anything. And it basically comes down to, what's the item you're shipping? What is the vulnerability you're looking to avoid? We can come up with a design. I tell people a lot of times we're more of a solutions company than we are a crater.
Okay.
Because they'll come up with a question like a few years after we were into the crating, one of our movers was like, I wish you guys could give us paper pads. And we're like, tell us all about your paper pads. So they told us all the issues. Well, we came up with a stuff called pleat wrap. And it's basically, if you've ever looked at the edge of a box, you see the corrugated has that little round tip.
Okay.
Well, pleat wrap is a straight up and down tip. It actually gets crushed in the machine and then spreads itself back open as you're running the machine. And we loose glue it every 6 inches. So when you get this thing, it will fold as easily as a wrapping paper that you put around a Christmas present. Oh, wow. But it literally gives you the strength of a box around the item and the cushioning of, say, you were wrapping it in foam. So we come up with that in like 2006, 2007, started manufacturing that and selling it to all these movers. And they've been using it, and they see their claims from damage go way down. They notice real quick that their employees, when they're using this stuff called paper bubble, they wrap 2, 3, 4 times of the stuff just to protect the item because they don't trust it. With our stuff, they wrap one and done. So they'll have a 30 to 60% cost savings just because the employees are using less. But then they start factoring in, how much time they're saving. And all of a sudden, instead of having guys who should be out delivering furniture, wrapping stuff, they end up with 2 guys wrapping stuff, and they put 4 guys back on the road where they make their money.
Right. Wow. So that's pretty interesting, actually, perspective too of the impact, not only just of the material savings itself, but just the overall kind of impact it has on the operation and the flow of business too. So that's really good stuff. I mean, so the J crate that you're talking about now, it sounds like, is that custom sizes made only, or do you guys also just sell like standard sizes as well that people can buy?
Well, for the moving industry, we have 6 different sizes that are always in stock, and they basically are built to cube out cargo containers.
Okay.
And then the best part of our business is once we come up with a design for your company, say you're shipping missiles, and we come up with a missile crate, and that's what we call it. On every single crate, you can change the dimension of that crate. Our stock that we use to put through the machine is 90 by 100 and 90 by 150. So my guys on the machine, we're a lean manufacturing facilities.
Okay.
They don't know what their next order is until they get down to having 2 things left to build. Then they get handed their next order. So you might have called it in 5 minutes ago and said, hey, I really messed up. I need these 2 crates tomorrow morning, or 5 crates. And we just say, yeah, that's fine. Here's the shipping cost because we're going to need to rush a truck in here for you, or here's the time you can pick them up. And it gets handed to the guy, and he punches it into the computer, and he cuts your crate, and it's done in 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And ready to go. But any size you can imagine, we can build. And like I said, a lot of our movers, because, if you go into a house, every painting's a different size.
Yeah.
Cables, everything. We have a standard crate, which we call an MP40, which has 5 slots in it. It's 48 inches wide by 40 inches tall. All 5 are the 4 sleeves that create the 5 slots pull out.
Okay.
And you can store them in the sides if you have nothing in the crate, and that way you can shove in blankets or whatever you want because it's a big bin now. They'll use them for like all the standard size paintings.
Oh,
and we have we developed that in 2009. There's people still using them today from 2009. We sell them all the time to the big movers, to the big art brokers and all.
Yeah.
But they also can call in and say, hey, like we had a guy last year, he called up and he's like, hey, I need these paintings rush. Somebody walked in and bought this plant, and the people need to be out in 30 days, and it was their showroom for their facilities. And we're like, okay, so he sends over 60 different sizes, and some of them were 230 inches long by 125 inches wide.
Oh, wow.
8 inches deep. And I called him back, and I'm like, hey, Jim, you got one issue. I can build them all, but you can't put them in a truck. Even at an angle, they won't fit into a 110 truck.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, no, I got a 135-inch truck that we use for special moves. I'm sending that. I said, okay, they'll be ready tomorrow morning. And he's like, you're serious? I can have them tomorrow? I said, well, you wrote on there that you needed them by tomorrow. I said, do you need them or not? And he's like, no, I really needed them, but I figured this would take a couple of days. I said, no, we'll put it out as our third job coming up because we got a couple other rushes. you get a guy here at 11 o'clock with a truck and we'll put him in. So they showed up the next day and off they go.
Nice. That's good service.
Yeah. We do a lot. Like we have customers that we go into their computer. They're on just in time. And like one big customer up in New York, we go in every Monday and every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And as they use these crates out of their storage racks, because they scan them and every one that they use turns green in our system, or their system. And we just go in and click on them all and reprint them at 10 o'clock on Monday. If there's not enough of them, if there's like one or two and we know they're mins and maxes, we'll call them and say, listen, we don't recommend you getting a truck today because you have 6 of these in stock and you only use 3 a week.
Right.
So why don't we wait till the Wednesday truck? And sometimes we'll cancel the load and they'll be like, okay. But if they say, no, I got to have them, we put them out as the next job and their truck shows up at 4 p.m. And it can be, most days it's probably like 8 to 10 crates. Sometimes it's 27, 30 crates. And they're all ready to go and the truck driver leaves.
Interesting. So it sounds like you guys are very, I guess, lean and continuous improvement focused, not only just from the innovations that you guys have done by listening to the customer, but also in your operation and your processes as well, and your interactions with customers too. Is that how the business started, or was that culture kind of injected into the business later on?
No, when I took over in 2011 is when things really started to go lean. My background is in lean manufacturing.
Okay.
So I took over, we restructured the plant, really just started because, people look at the workload and they get overwhelmed. I'm like, just concentrate on your next 20 minutes. When you get that job in your hand, it's going to tell you that's your job, and it's going to tell you how long you got to get it done. Just get it done.
Yeah.
And if there's any issues, let's fix them. So between 2011 and the middle of 2012, we got all the kinks worked out of the system. And the guys just basically get the next job, do what they need to do. Customers, we tell them, if you're a new customer and you walk through the door today and we're going to do business, you must tell us when you need them. Because the biggest mistake that happens with big companies is they're used to a 2 to 3 week lead time coming to them. Well, they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, we want them, blah, blah, blah. And they give us an order for like 100 and we'll make them and we ship them to them. And their shipping guy's like, I hate you guys. And we're like, why? He's like, I didn't need these for like 3 weeks. Why were they here the next day?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so we go over it. As when my salespeople land the accounts, I'll literally call up and say, hey, welcome to PACT. Just want to clarify. You answered the question there, but or you know that you need to put a date on it if you don't want it. And they're like, oh, yeah, I checked that off, but you're serious. I'm like, no, we're serious because our lead time, like if my plant goes, if you put the order in this morning and it doesn't ship within 48 hours, I'm driving there to find out what's up. And the guys know that. So when they see me come in, they're like, oh no, we got to be behind Rodger's here.
Yeah.
Or I'm walking in with a gift because I do a lot of extra things for the folks. Like next week, I'm picking up a cow because there's supposed to be a meat shortage going on. So I'm bringing everybody a 45-pound box of meat at the Connecticut facility.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Yeah, you got to take care of your people.
Definitely.
Especially when things are crazy like this. I told them, I want you concentrating on making crates.
Yeah.
Not on what's on your refrigerator at home.
Wow. That's really noble of you. So kudos to you for that. Sounds like you have a really good operation going there, and something, and not only just on the service level that you're delivering, but also from a culture perspective as well. So
I have the best people on the planet, I think.
Ah, I see. Well,
we basically do what we do is when we hire a new employee in, they work with each person in the facility for at least 2 days. And then we have a meeting at the end of the second week, and the group decides if they're staying or going.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah. If they fit in, or they're not listening.
Yeah.
You're constantly having to retrain them. I just say, hey, here's your one warning. This is what's going on. You got 2 weeks to go. And if you're still not fitting in, we got to move on.
Wow. That's really interesting. And that's the think that's so, I guess, out of the norm that you see in like, regular big companies and things of that nature. But I think that's an awesome approach because, like you said, it's important that the people are, comfortable in doing the work that they need to be doing. And obviously, if you have somebody that doesn't fit in, then it kind of can rub the team the wrong way, and it can hinder productivity.
Oh yeah, the team will only work as good as their weakest link. And if they're all good people, and you can keep them focused, and you got the great group of people together, you can get anything accomplished.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. So really interesting stuff about the company and the culture. So I wanted to go back a little bit to talk about the sustainability aspect of the company. So packaging is something that has historically created a lot of waste, essentially, right? Not only from just a consumer standpoint, but also from logistics, distribution, shipping standpoint too. So how do you guys, we talked about the crate example where, wooden crates end up just getting forever burned in this pile in China somewhere. But, how do you focus on sustainability, and how has that kind of helped you to innovate more? And how do you remain sustainable with your products? And how do you kind of pass that sustainability on to your customers as well?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, we try to, everything that comes to us already has some part recycled materials in it. Mm-hmm. And then as we design anything, we try to stay away from things like foam, and we'll use air. Like a piece of foam will crush so far during a major impact, and then it will release energy the other way because it has no more give to it. Air never transfers energy. So we'll use things like air wall. So when you're putting that thing in the plane or the truck, you've added no weight to it 2 inches all the way around it, given it space. You've just added air that's in airbags that will take a massive thing to pop.
Right.
And the airbags are like 2-inch circles. So if you came along with a knife and you decided to pop 3 of them, okay, 3 out of 1,000, the rest are still acting and doing their job. And when it gets to the other end, you simply just cut them all and you put them into the plastic recycle dumpster, and it goes over and it gets melted back down and it comes into a new roll of plastic or a new plastic part.
Interesting. So, I mean, I like that you guys are focusing on the sustainability aspect as well. And I think that's really important, especially in supply chain nowadays as we grow and become better corporate citizens as well. So I'm curious, talking about being corporate citizens, and also you talked a little bit about what you're doing for your employees during the current times with the cow and everything. Very generous of you. I'm curious from the packaging standpoint, during the pandemic that we're going through now and all the COVID-19 stuff, have you seen an impact on the packaging industry and the products that you provide? Has there been any kind of increase in demand, or has there been some changes in consumer behavior?
It was pretty busy up until about 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then there was a lull because a lot of companies didn't get their stimulus money from that first go-round.
Okay.
So instead of running full, they started really cutting back.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lull for about the last 2 weeks. But yesterday, everybody seemed to come back to work, had orders that they needed to fill. So it's starting to pick up a little right now. I think it's going to go back 100% within the next couple months.
Yeah, I think so too, definitely. And I think actually right now, I mean, one thing that I've been talking to people about is during this pandemic, it's like there's actually opportunity kind of to see where, maybe you have gaps in your operations and things of that nature, and become a little more lean and, take a continuous improvement approach to it. And, working with your products and your crates and introducing those, I'm sure customers are able to kind of cut their spending on things like crates and packaging a little more, because your stuff is reusable and stronger as well. So I'm sure some customers are definitely appreciating using your products as well. I'm sure that's right.
Right. The only part where it has hurt us a little is we have a new product, which is called Thermo Shield.
Right.
It's basically that pleat wrap I was telling you about earlier, but it's coated on all three layers with a ink that when a lithium battery goes into thermal runaway, it starts to heat up. So during our testing, we wrapped up 118 650s. That's like the battery used in the Tesla.
Right.
And without our paper, every time there's an explosion, it blows a hole right through the top of the box, fire, everything burns up at about 1800 degrees.
Oh, wow.
If you wrap it in one layer of our paper, there's never an explosion. The stuff goes off inside of itself, and it sits there and churns in like a little molten lava. Inside our paper, it's 1800 degrees. I'm sorry, 1500 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Outside the paper, it's 80 degrees Celsius. You don't even barely know on the outside of the box that there's even a fire happening inside. And whatever else is inside the box never even knows there's a fire. Without our stuff, we always stack 118 650s in there, and then another 100 on top of it in another wrap of paper.
Yeah.
You never get the ignition box to go into the witness box with our paper. Without our paper, everything goes up. The whole thing burns to the ground. It's pretty violent. We've even done like car batteries that were 16-volt car batteries. Without our paper, it got so bad in the testing facility that actually we had to evacuate, and they had to rewire the whole testing area because it burned everything. Yeah. In our paper, it took 21 hours between going off and going out. And outside our paper, you never even knew there was something going on inside. But inside, it was burning 1500 degrees.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. I can imagine that, not only just for like shipping purposes and wrapping these batteries for protective purposes and that, I'm sure that this could be applied to other applications as well as kind of some fire prevention measures, no?
Absolutely. And it's a huge safety thing. We're working with a couple organizations right now, waiting on them to come back to work and approve regulations. But our hope is that the IKEA and IATA will do a new regulation where you can actually ship batteries on a plane again, a commercial airliner, and using our product. And we're working with the DOT right now on a final approval, which I think will come through within the next month, to be able to ship all over the world wrapped in our paper. Because instead of worrying about losing a cargo container, a plane, or a truck,
right,
you have no loss. It's literally, you don't even know until you unwrap that package that, oh, wow, I lost 100 batteries. I lost the car battery. Nothing else was affected. And the best part is, at the end of life, it's 100% recyclable.
Oh, wow. So even if it burns up and everything, it's still recyclable?
Yeah, well, it'll never burn up. The paper has never burned yet. It literally sits there and just off-gases this moisture vapor and controls the temperature within inside of it.
Yeah.
And it just fizzles out. And then when you're done, you open it up and you see a whole bunch of char inside of the thing.
Yeah.
It's basically the gases that are created during a lithium battery fire basically get cooled down and they can't escape. They just stay inside the paper and they just fall to the ground, and you open up and you dump them out, and you take that piece of paper and you throw it in the recycle dumpster.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. I love that. I mean, I can imagine the testing for that might have been a little fun, trying to blow some stuff up, right?
Oh, it was fun. Yeah. We did it originally we did it out in Oregon at the, Northeastern Fire Center.
Okay.
And we had all the data, and we showed it to the ICAO, which is basically the FAA of the world.
Yeah.
And IATA. And they were like, oh, no, we want it redone in our lab. So we went up to Canada in Ottawa and did it at the National Research Center up there. And the guys were like, you realize you're about to fail. This is going to blow up. And I'm like, okay, bud, let's do it.
Yeah.
And we did it. And the guy was like, oh my God, I can't believe you passed. And we did it like 5 times. And he's like, wow, we thought it was a fluke at first. So then we came home, and they sent us all the test results. And the guy wrote right at the very end, well, you didn't do any big batteries. And I'm like, wait a minute, you picked the batteries. He says, all right, you boys picked the batteries. Let's redo it. So they picked these 2 big car batteries, a 12-volt Mitsubishi and a 16-volt Chevy Volt battery.
Yeah.
And we went back, and I said, I want to see it without my stuff. And they were like, okay. Well, when the Chevy Volt battery went off in their test chamber, it was so violent that they basically evacuated us. And we came back the next morning. They're like, we need 3 extra hours. We're still rewiring the booth. I'm like, no kidding. They're like, yeah.
Wow.
And then the head guy says, we don't even want to do your paper, Raj, because it's going to fail. There's no way you're going to pass.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just seen us do the 12-volt battery, and it didn't have a problem. He goes, I know, but this thing is like the next step up of violence. I'm like, no, let's do it. So we did it, and nothing happened. Like inside our paper, it's just sitting there churning and burning, and outside the guy's going, oh my God. So when we got done, he just looked at me and he goes, you realize you got like a $2 to $3 billion a year product sitting here? And I said, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I came here. That's why I'm paying the money to have you test it so everybody can believe it.
Yeah. Wow. Worth the investment then.
Yeah. And now we're trying to go to market, but because of the corona, you have so many people not in the facilities to come and see the data and hear the sales pitch that everything's delayed a little.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to end soon, hopefully.
Definitely hope so. But I'm sure whenever the visibility gets there to the market, then you guys are gonna I guess there's a play on words, but you guys are gonna explode into the market, right? So.
Oh yeah.
All right, great stuff, and definitely really interesting to hear not only about the products and innovations you guys have done for your products, but also about the culture that you guys have as well. I really find that fascinating. So, Rodger, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show. How can people find out more information about PACT?
They can go to pactwww.com. We also have another website called thermoshield.com, and either way will link you right to PACT. And like I tell people, if you don't know what you want, just call us anyway, and we'll show you what you need.
I like that. Very good. All right, Rodger, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll definitely post those links at thenewwarehouse.com as well so people can check them out. And thank you once again for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Talk to you later.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.